The medical term for my condition is called as femoral dysplasia, and I'm missing knee joints and thigh limb. So my shin bones are connected to my waist. So I cannot bend my legs or lift my legs. So when I walk, I swing my legs.
Okay, and you were born in southern India?
Yes, a city called Bangalore. When I was born, the doctors and the medical representatives told my parents that I would never walk in my life. I would be mentally inactive as well, and I would probably not survive past the infanthood. And they rushed me to all the possible hospitals for medical treatment or explanation, and that's the reason why I was not shown to my mother. If a person, especially a boy, the firstborn is born physically or mentally challenged, it's usually considered as a bad luck to the family, a symbol of bad luck and a curse from God. So that is always hard to deal with, and we come from a small town, so everybody knew, and people would come to just to see how the baby looks like.
Yeah.
So it was hard to face them. I'm sure my parents had a tough time to deal with that too.
Right. So describe what it was like then growing up in India with your challenges.
Well, I always say this way, when a baby is born in a family, it usually brings a lot of joy and happiness, and relationships are healed, people come together, there are tears of joy everywhere. But when I was born, nothing really like that happened. I only brought tears of sadness. But growing up, my parents did not give up. There were emergency family meetings where most of them took a side to reject the baby as fearing it is a curse from God. But my parents loved me, accepted me, and especially my mother, she never let me feel I was different. She always let me go ahead and face the world and prove yourself. And my dad was very supportive too. And growing up, I used to see my friends, my buddies in school or high school. I just wanted to be like them, wear clothes like them, I wanted to do stuffs like them, but I felt I was different. People looking at me, making fun of me, bullying me, staring at me. I grabbed a lot of attentions, and I didn't like it.
You went to the same school, like a regular school?
Regular school, and I played regular sports that my friends plays, but never in a team. I was just playing with them, but not in a team.
So what did that do inside of you? What kind of emotions did you have to deal with that?
It was really hard. It was tough because I used to come back home, ask my parents really very tough questions, and they did not have any possible answers, and I used to just slam the door, go back to my bed and wet the pillow all night. But at one point I was so depressed that I thought I was the problem, and because of me everybody else is facing problems. So the best way to solve the problem is get rid of the problem. So I wanted to kill myself, and that's the end of all the problems. And my younger sister and my parents would be happy from there. So. And
how old were you at that point?
I was probably around 16, 17,
Yeah.
And that was a tough time.
And so how did you work through that tough time?
I think during all these things, the love of my mother, support from my sister and my father, always encouraged me. Yeah. And they believe in Hindu gods, and it was hard for me to accept that. I'm like, if there is a God, why me? I have a million reasons not to believe in God.
Right.
So that was a struggle I was still fighting in my head.
Then what happened when it came to the point of you actually discovered the love of Jesus?
Yes.
Tell us what led up to that, and how did that happen?
When my mother was diagnosed with cancer, that was the time when I was really mad at God. I thought, if there is a God, I'm really mad at him. I was like, first you make me like this, and then you go on and take the only woman who loved me so much. For her, I was the most cutest and most handsome kid, and now she's not there anymore. 2003, I lost my mother, and that was the time when I hit the floor really hard. I thought, now I have to leave this place. I can't take it. I can't take anymore. And I was in my engineering school in Bangalore. I had a buddy who was my classmate, and he was a Christian. And I used to tell him, hey, I wish I was like you, 6 foot tall and smart and good looking, and riding bikes and having fun, wear clothes like you do. And he used to tell me, there's this God, Jesus, who can heal you. That's all he kept telling me. And I was really mad at him too. Because that's when I lost my mother, and I had to be strong, at least pretend to be strong, because my father is a man of integrity, and he supported us, and I have a younger sister. So I wanted to take that responsibility and pretend that I'm strong. But that is when I told my buddy, we have 330 million gods. Why do I need another God? And he said, it's not another God, it's the God. It's the only God. Jesus is the only God. And that's when I met his pastor, and after a series of conversation, I said, okay, let me give a shot. I'll try this Jesus. If I'm healed, that's great. If I'm not, there's nothing to lose. And I started to pray and fast days after days, weeks after week, months after months, and every night I slept hoping that tomorrow morning I'll wake up 6 foot tall. So there was a time when I went and bought a longest pair of jeans that I can find, hung it next to my bed, because if Jesus comes in the middle of the night and heals me, I have nothing to wear. So,
Right.
so I was prepared.
That was, it's taking faith.
Yes.
But when you weren't healed, and how did that affect you, and why did you still say yes to Jesus?
Yes, it was very tough for me to understand.
Yeah.
But I was praying and fasting for healing. I think my perception of healing was outside in. But Jesus was healing me inside out. He was healing my heart, and I could see that slow shift of my heart. And he told me there's life beyond healing. There's a kingdom of God. And I am healed. By his stripes, I am healed. I'm just 6 foot guy stuck in 3 foot body. Yeah. So, but the physical manifestation will happen one day, and I'm very certain of it. I think I'm now trying to understand the will of God, the plan of God that he tells in his word, and I believe that. And he's using me, or touching and using others or my situation to teach me something, and probably to speak to people. So.
And you are having an impact with people. You go around and you speak to different groups and churches and so on, and what an encouragement that is, what a tremendous attitude you have, and faith you have, and just the strength that you would bring to others who may look at you and say, you know what, if Bharath can do this, I can do this too. I can serve the Lord, and I can have a great attitude despite circumstances.
Yes, oh no, I see that happening, and even me, when I go and talk to people, I learn something from them. And it's encouraging when they say, that my message touched them, and it's not me, but it's Jesus through me. Yeah. So I'm going there, with my mind filled with the Holy Spirit, and I don't know what I spoke, but so it's the grace of God.
Oh. Now, we've got to talk about Kilimanjaro.
Oh, yes.
You climbed the highest mountain peak in Africa, 19,341 feet above sea level.
Yes.
And first of all, why did you even get this idea to climb it?
Before I became a Christian, before I started to believe in Jesus, every time I told my dreams to anyone, they usually laughed. And they repeatedly told me that, I was not able to do it. And I try, or I was crazy enough to think about it. So I kept believing those negative thoughts. So when I come to Jesus, and Jesus says, no, you can do all things through me. My grace is sufficient for you. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. So I started to believe that, and I started to test it. I said, okay, Jesus, you said I can do all things through you. I'm going to do this. And I never camped in my life, never climbed a mountain in my life. And I stand 3 foot 7 inches, and with my tiny steps, I'm trying to climb this 19,000 feet mountain. God, I cannot do it myself. And he told me, yes, you can, but I'll help you. That's how I started to challenge myself. I wanted to prove myself wrong, that all the negative things that I believed was wrong. And yes, God helped me.
What was it like being at the summit then of Mount Kilimanjaro? You made it.
It was awesome. And before that, I knew it seemed very impossible, but Jesus told me together we can make it. And every time I looked at the peak, I said to my crew, like, we'll reach the top, we'll worship Jesus there. Every time we saw the peak, we said, we'll reach the top, we'll worship Jesus. When I was on the summit, for a second or few seconds, my whole life flashed in front of my eyes. 30 years ago, I was told I will never walk in my life. And here I am. Jesus chooses the weak, the tiny, the shameful of this world to, glorify His name. And I wish my mother would be alive to see this day, and she would be a proud lady. It was great. I have no words to explain it.
Well, at some point, we'll have to have you back and just kind of trace that whole journey in more detail, because that's an amazing story. But you are able to drive a car.
Yes.
You're able to do regular things around the house and out, and of course, climbing a mountain, swimming. You really feel that there's really nothing can really hold you back.
Yes, these are the things that I always wanted to do in my life, and these are not. If I say this to a 16-year-old kid, they're like, oh, what's a big deal in it? I started driving when I was 14 or 16, but I started driving when I was 27. And I wanted to be independent and, go anywhere I can anytime. And God helped me. And
all the hand controls that you have.
It was all built from hand controls. And
I never really explained then that when you came over in 2009 to Calgary, you completed your schooling at University of Calgary.
Yes.
And you graduated with a master's.
Yes.
In engineering.
Yes. I came in 2009, yes.
All right, congratulations for that.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it was tough when I first decided that, okay, I'm going to Calgary. My dad was pretty worried because of my physical abilities, but he didn't stop me. I came here, and the day I came here, it was minus 25 and a foot-high snow. Wow. So a foot-high snow is a waist-high for me.
Right.
So I thought, God, did I misread you? Was it California or Calgary? But it was Calgary, and the first couple of weeks was the toughest days in my life. And walking in the snow, I don't bend my legs, and it was swinging my legs, and it was shoveling through the snow. With those blisters under my feet, and started to bleed. And I said, no, Lord, I want to go back, but Jesus said, to beat it, you have to first face it, and we will do it together. So every time I walked to the school, my neighbors are pretty happy with me, because they see in the morning this sidewalk shoveled. It's actually me going to the school.
And today you have a great job in Calgary, you're engineering type job, and so God has done amazing things through you.
Yes.
And just as we close here, I wonder maybe you could encourage someone who is struggling. They're going through a situation in their own life, and they're saying, there's no hope. What might you say to someone today?
Life will give you 100 reasons to cry. And I don't know why. I don't know why we are in that situation sometimes. But all I know is we have to stand back, fight back, and give back life one reason to smile. And that is only Jesus. We'll have hope in Jesus alone. And there's so many questions I don't know the answer, but Jesus knows. So we have that void in our heart, which can be only filled by the love of Christ and the blood of Christ.